DiCarlo for her briefing. I now give the floor to those council members who wish to make statements. I give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President, for convening this meeting on Resolution 2231. And thank you to Undersecretary DiCarlo for your briefing. This Council is and should remain seized of the non-proliferation issue, especially with respect to the Islamic Republic of Iran. It is clear, as demonstrated by the issuance of the Secretary General's recent report on Resolution 2231, that, with the exception of paragraphs 7, 8, and 16 to 20, this resolution and its related practical arrangements remain in effect. Additionally, pursuant to the snapback process outlined in Resolution 2231, the Council decided to reinstate Resolutions 1696, 1737, 1747, 1803, 1835, and 1929. These resolutions are not arbitrary or punitive, but rather narrowly scoped to address a nuclear program that seeks to operate out of view of the international community and in continued non-compliance with its Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty mandated Comprehensive Safeguards Agreement with the IAEA, as reaffirmed last month by the IAEA Board. The reimposition of these proliferation-focused measures reflects the Council's long-standing concern, reaffirmed in its September 19th vote to restore these resolutions, about the Iranian nuclear file. As noted on the UN website, the 1737 Committee was immediately reestablished concurrent with the reinstatement of these resolutions. The United States will continue to work to ensure this committee is a fully functioning, active body. The United States continues to prefer a negotiated solution to this matter. Absent that solution, the Council must operationalize the 1737 Committee. Moreover, these resolutions, if implemented by member states in good faith, can constrain the space for potential escalation and uncertainty. The United States therefore urges its fellow members to support the expeditious implementation of the reinstated UN Security Council resolutions to realize their potential as a bulwark against insecurity. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement. I give the floor to the representative of Denmark.
Thank you, Mr. President, and let me also thank Undersecretary General DiCarlo for her briefing. Mr. President, as we have persistently underlined, Iran must never develop or acquire nuclear weapons. We have repeatedly expressed our concerns about Iran's nuclear trajectory and the fact that the IAEA is unable to provide assurances that the Iranian nuclear program is exclusively peaceful. We are also gravely concerned by Iran curtailing cooperation with the IAEA, who has lost continuity of knowledge and has for 6 months now been unable to provide information on the status or whereabouts of the enriched uranium stockpiles in Iran. This is deeply alarming. We see no credible civilian justification neither for hiding nor accumulating highly enriched uranium stockpiles. Mr. President, Denmark considers that Iran has been in non-compliance with its obligations since 2019. Numerous IAEA reports document this fact. As of 13 June 2025, Iran's enriched uranium stockpile was nearly 50 times the JCPOA limit. Iran had more than 450 kilograms of uranium enriched up to 60%. No other country without a nuclear weapons program enriches uranium to such levels and at such scale. Over the years, the E3 has vigorously worked for a diplomatic solution. Before the activation of the snapback, Iran was offered the opportunity to extend the provisions of Resolution 2231, provided Iran took steps to address 3 immediate concerns. 1, to show commitment to resume political negotiations. 2, to resume cooperation with the IAEA. And 3, to address issues relating to uranium enrichment and storage. Such steps from the Iranian side would have demonstrated willingness to comply with their obligations and to find a diplomatic solution. It would also have contributed to assure the international community that Iran's nuclear program is entirely peaceful. Iran, unfortunately, did not choose this path. Therefore, the E3's activation of the snapback was a last resort, which Denmark fully supported. Consequently, we call on Iran and all UN member states to fully comply with the 6 reinstated Security Council resolutions. Mr. President, we do not consider the snapback of sanctions and nuclear restrictions as the end of diplomacy. On the contrary, we believe that it brings us closer to the only durable solution to the Iran nuclear issue, which is one reached through diplomacy and dialogue. Denmark calls on Iran to return to the negotiation table and work towards an agreement that addresses the serious doubts about the nature of its nuclear program. Such negotiations will have to be based on reliable and impartial information on the status of Iran's nuclear program. We strongly urge Iran to return to full compliance with its legally binding safeguards obligations. Mr. President, to conclude, Denmark remains fully committed to achieving a durable, long-term, negotiated solution to address the Iranian nuclear issue, with the IAEA playing a vital role. We have supported efforts towards this goal, and we will continue to do so in the future. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Denmark for his statement. I now give the floor to the representative of France.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, President. I would like to thank USG Rosemary DiCarlo for her briefing on the biannual report of the Secretary General on Resolution 2231. In the continuation of our work in September and in the implementation by this Council of the snapback process, we take note of the elements of this report relating to the implementation of Resolution 2231, and we are pleased that no member of this Council formally objected to the presentation, which is important for us to be able to continue the work of the Security Council. I would also like to commend the participation in this meeting of the European Union, that is the coordinator of the Joint Commission of the Vienna Agreement on the Iranian nuclear file, as well as the representatives of Iran and Germany. Mr. President, I would have 2 comments to make. First of all, the lack of implementation by Iran of international obligations relating to its nuclear program constitutes a grave threat to international peace and security. In addition to the increasingly flagrant violations since 2019 by Iran of all of the limitations that can guarantee that its nuclear program is pursuing peaceful purposes, Iran has dramatically limited the IAEA's access to the nuclear facilities on its territory. For 6 months now, the IAEA has not had any access to the most sensitive sites of the Iranian nuclear program and has no way to verify the status of the 450 kilos of 60% high-enriched uranium held by Iran. If that were brought to military enrichment levels, that stockpile would, let us remember, be of a sufficient quantity to produce 10 nuclear explosive devices. Iran is also the only non-nuclear weapon state that is enriching to these levels. The agency, therefore, says today that it does not have continuity of knowledge over key aspects of the Iranian nuclear program, and thus that it is no longer able to guarantee its peaceful nature. The Board of Governors of the IAEA decided in November to renew the verification mandate of the IAEA in Iran under the resolutions reimposed following the snapback, and we call upon Iran to implement its safeguards obligations and to fully cooperate with the IAEA. Next, the reimposition of sanctions in no case indicates the end of efforts to find a diplomatic solution. The decision to trigger the snapback procedure was taken as a last resort after more than 5 years of diplomatic efforts aimed at getting Iran to respect its commitments, including a proposal to extend the term of the snapback, which Iran refused. The end of this procedure brings with it the re-entry into force of the resolutions of this Council on Iran, which includes an embargo on arms to and from Iran, as well as a suspension by Iran of its uranium enrichment activities. And it is incumbent upon all states to contribute to respect for these obligations in accordance with the Charter of the United Nations. We would also like to see the appointment of a chair of the 1737 committee responsible for monitoring the proper implementation of these measures and for the prompt appointment of the members of the panel of experts of that committee. We are determined to implement the resolutions that have been reimposed, and we remain fully committed to a negotiated solution. France's position and the position of its partners in the E3 has been constant for more than 20 years. Only a diplomatic solution can provide a viable response to the Iranian nuclear question. We therefore continue to call upon Iran to re-engage in serious negotiations and good faith negotiations in order to conclude a lasting and verifiable agreement that would guarantee to the international community that Iran will never acquire nuclear weapons. Thank you.
I thank the representative of France for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Greece.
Thank you, Mr. President, for convening this meeting, and I thank Under-Secretary General Di Carlo for her briefing. I would also like to welcome the presence of the representatives of the European Union, Germany, and Iran in the meeting. Mr. President, allow me to highlight the following points. First, Greece once again reiterates its unwavering commitment to the global nuclear non-proliferation regime with the International Atomic Energy Agency and the Non-Proliferation Treaty as its indispensable institutional cornerstones. Preserving and strengthening this regime is the only way forward for the region and the world. We therefore urge all states to comply fully with their obligations under the NPT. Second, we express serious concern regarding the findings of the IAEA Board of Governors' most recent report of November 12th, as well as the resolution adopted on November 20th. These make clear that the implementation of safeguards activities in Iran, in accordance with the NPT Safeguards Agreement, is indispensable and urgent and cannot be suspended under any circumstances. Echoing the IAEA, we urge Iran to extend full and prompt cooperation to the agency, including by providing the necessary information and access. Of equal concern is the steady increase in Iran's stockpile of highly enriched uranium, as well as the fact that its whereabouts are currently unknown. As of early summer, Iran's total stockpile had exceeded 9,200 kilograms in total, including more than 450 kilograms of uranium enriched up to 60%. There is no credible civilian justification for such a quantity of uranium enriched to this level. The international community must be reassured of the exclusively peaceful nature of Iran's nuclear program. In this regard, we note with deep concern of the AI's assessment that unless and until Iran assists the agency in resolving the outstanding issues, the agency will not be in a position to provide such assurance. Third, Greece continues to view a diplomatic solution based on the principles of the JCPOA as the best way to ensure that Iran can exercise its right to a nuclear program while guaranteeing that this program remains exclusively peaceful. It also remains the only viable pathway to sanctions relief, economic development, and regional de-escalation. It is in this spirit that we urge the initial parties to the JCPOA to resume talks without delay. Mr. President, with the credibility of the global non-proliferation architecture at stake and growing uncertainty threatening the stability of the Middle East, the time has long come for responsible action from all sides. We therefore call on all parties to demonstrate political will, engage meaningfully, and reaffirm their commitment to dialogue, diplomacy, and respect for international law, including their non-proliferation obligations. Greece will continue to advocate for de-escalation and for the doors of diplomacy and dialogue to remain open. The stakes are otherwise too high for regional and international peace and security. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Greece for